We'll see what happens.
There you go.
Right, it's just one participant.
We're into perpetuity now. We're into perpetuity.
Oh.
Be careful what you say.
Yep.
Good morning. Welcome to Columbia Open Space Committee regular meeting for Thursday, September 19 at 9 a.m. And we are called to order. I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of August 15th.
So. Thank you.
Well,
Second.
do we have a second?
I can second.
Any discussion? Okay, corrections? No. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And good.
Abstention? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have no updates from our partners, but we saw a lot of them last night. So,
Anything juicy from somebody talking to Honor or the Girl Scout camp apparently coming along, which I guess is really very positive. She said the only stumbling block there was the dam. And I guess it's moving along, so that's great because that's another 400 acres. So.
yes, and there was discussion that that Camp Laurel, which is within striking distance along the airline trail of Monopine State Park, would be very good for camping and equestrian, because the trails are already in place, the buildings are already in place. So those are all things, but the dam is a huge stumbling block because TPL can easily acquire property, but they do not hold land. They hand it off to a land trust, the state of Connecticut, a municipality. And so far, Joshua's trust, and the state, maybe, and the town of Lebanon have rejected taking, accepting the property and holding entitled to it because, and only because of the liability of the dam. So, what TPL is working on is making the dam go away, or the liability of the dam.
That's a shame.
So that is really the only stumbling block right now. And
Well, how would TPL address that? I'm not clear on that.
Somebody said it costs as much to take it down part of it as to fix it. I've had that issue with people dams and there's one over in I almost convention having on Route 85 as you're heading towards Colchester, there's a little pond on the left. They've been going back and forth on that for that reason, whether to fix it or can't.
yeah,
It's expensive either way.
it is.
What about that southeastern? Trust.
Avalon is still in the game. If that they have agreed to accept it, if the dam liability goes away. So with the dam, it's not just what, let's go pull a few rocks out and it'll reach. That's not that simple because there are it's the downstream effect of breaching a dam that is a huge stumbling block.
Mhm.
If there are invasives, pollutants, a flood issue in the pond, and you breach the dam, all those problems wash downstream. So Columbia has a huge liability for Columbia Lake, because they had to consider not only the houses, like for instance, the Osmonds that were right there that could get washed away. But as it hits Route 6, it could wash out homes there. Plus, it could wash out the road itself, Route 6. And then it enters the Hot River. And you've got all that liability into Willamette and beyond.
Good thing we have a good dam.
Well, and if you pay attention to the budget, there's a lot of money put into that. And so these are all things that when the dam was built were not necessarily liabilities. And so, but they are now,
And we thought culverts were expensive.
yes.
Well, the one thing too, with that pond in Camp Laurel, that's pretty close to being the headwaters of the 10 Mile River.
Yes. So it just has, breaching a dam has enormous effects downstream. And and, you know, economically, ecologically,
I've never been over, is the dam actually in bad condition? Or is it just that it's a dam?
I don't know that.
I don't know,
I don't think, well, I don't think it's been maintained.
there's a lot of issues, because even, I don't know what's the history of it, that could even be a like almost a detention pond. That pond could be holding back flooding. So you could take the dam out perfectly well, do everything right, and all of a sudden people don't feel like, well, how come we're being flooded now? And
Yes,
so
exactly.
they're dams are crazy. So you can spend thousands of dollars just deciding what I asked right now. Have the engineers come in and all that, and I think, see,
Yeah.
there should be a better way of doing this, because otherwise we'll have no problems.
And the state has gotten kind of, they're trying to get it handled on all the dams in Connecticut. In fact, Joshua's Trust received an inquiry about the dam at the Upley Hill Preserve. Well, it's a beaver dam. But it went on record because maybe 75 years ago, someone had the bright idea to develop the swamp to become another Columbia Lake. So he brought equipment up there and he started making a dam. Well, he mercifully been out of business, and he he didn't finish the project, and of course it reached, and it never, never held back.
Who was that?
Tommy Fagan. So the beavers took over
They finished.
and they finished it. But the state was asking Joshua's Trust, what about this Fagan Dam? Because they wanted this.
You know, there was a period where the US Department of Agriculture would fund pond building on farms.
Yes,
A farmer could build anything he wanted, a pond, lake, whatever, and the funding would come from the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah.
Because it was assumed that it was helpful to grazing or whatever.
well, it is.
Well, you know, the behind the senior center is that old pond.
Yep.
and there's a dam there, which doesn't hold water, it flows through. At one point, when I was on the board, they actually came up. The state wanted us to do something about it, so we were gonna hire. Anyways, let me go long story, it was gonna cost $40,000 to do whatever it was. And fortunately, we weren't, there's like different categories, we weren't the worst category.
Right,
So basically, we came down to the point we could do nothing, but it was just. That was $40,000 to have the local engineer to the town hired, just to study it, to tell us what to do. That's not actually doing.
exactly. Yep,
So that's like. It is.
that is,
Bring it along.
the word that Callie. No. The IMBA, what's her name?
Liz,
Liz, thank you. Liz. Graves, the person who's heading up our, the creation of the plan, trail plan for Mount Pond State Park, told me that, our next project, Friends of Mount Pond Open Space, is he will send us an updated QR code that we are to advertise as far wide as we can.
I've got it.
You've got,
Yep, and the QR code will bring you to their survey, the same thing that they did last night in person. You know, how do you use the park now? What do you want to see there in the future? What don't you want to see? So I will get that out.
can you be able to send that people that people can respond to, is that what that is?
Yeah, it's either a QR code or a link where they can get to a survey, applicant, an online survey.
and that's to, invite the people who could not attend in person to, have input into. it.
So how, who would we send it to? Do we have a list or something, or?
Well, you would put it out on the town website, part of it, but in all these different Facebook groups, we have around, you know, everything Columbia, everything Hebron, because as friends of Monroe Pond, I was able to post in all these different towns.
Cool.
So I think they hit at least 10 different Facebook groups, and then it gets reposted to like the airline trail, the Hopper Gully, but just.
So that was one of the things that Honor mentioned to me last night, was that we should try to attract a larger area, because she says it is a state park.
Yeah,
It's not on Columbia.
No, that's good. Ann and I have been working on that outreach
Yeah,
this most of this calendar year. We went to Lebanon's Conservation Commission. When we did the Ride East, the person that was head of trails in Hebron was tabling, we had a chance to talk there.
Yeah.
I reached out to Colchester through the Colchester Land Trust, so, and we're gonna talk about the airline trail later in the meeting. What should I mention?
I'm good.
So the airline trails, 12-town alliance, they're in the process of splitting it north and south. Everything north of Willimantic, Rhode Island would be one group of 6 towns, and then south would be Willimantic to Portland, 6 towns. And at the moment, I am the interim chair for the South Airline Trail. So that'll, so all those people that are involved with the airline trail have been getting the information from me and the Hopper, the trail from and the event last night, and how the airline trail and Mile Pond have to be integrated, the management plan similar to the way Goodwood State Forest. So,
Sam, are you gonna just take responsibility for distributing the QR code through your contacts?
yes, and I will share it with Ian and Jen and whoever, they can post on however they want in the town. Recreation,
when do you do that?
they asked me not to do it till after the event last night, so probably today or tomorrow.
Okay, so we can all look forward at this point. Wherever we look at things.
Okay,
Just one more point from last night that I was talking to Liz. She said that there are only 80 some odd employees in D. There's over 125 state parks. They in total have only 80 some odd employees. You don't even have one person per parking in their organization.
No, we're talking about like park rangers and.
Well, I mean, just-
We're talking about DEP employees.
Deep,
Well, that's not that, I mean,
that doesn't sound like, I mean, for all the responsibility there, that just doesn't seem. I mean, that's why you think,
but I mean, that would be the people,
All the
if it doesn't,
movies.
it doesn't include the park rangers, then that's not so bad. If it did include the park rangers, that'd be really bad. Cause I mean, they're just sitting in an office, well, you know, I mean, I don't know. The problem I see from my talking to my friend is that they're very departmentalized and there's not, they have trouble communicating within their group. That's the impression I get from her. It's one of her pet peeves. That's a good thing.
The way it goes. Okay, moving right along, old business, planning and zoning.
Nothing really new, since the last regulation revision changes, so. It's been really busy, so we had, in the sense of like personal busy, so we haven't had a lot of time to sit down on a subcommittee. But we're planning on doing that in the next couple of weeks and going through the next round of what we think needs to be revised. So during the last couple regular planning and zoning meetings, we opened it up to the public just to ask, you know, if there's any suggestions, if you guys have anything on the zoning side that you think needs to be changed, you know, we're just basically taking input. For me personally, I kind of want to hit on some of the ag regulations. Mentioned this morning that we have the right to farm signs going up, which is great, but our zoning regulations prohibit a lot of stuff arbitrarily. So we kind of have this conversation going on.
What kind of stuff you mean?
It's mainly around, it's very, I don't even know how to put it. We have matrices under the zoning regulations, especially like livestock density stuff that is just makes no sense. Like there's,
In what way?
so the acreage per animal in a lot of cases. The minimum acreages are fine, but when you look at additional animals, they require like 1 acre minimums for additional animals and things like that. Where even if you look at, and that's fenced in, it's not just full acreage, like you have to have so many acres fenced in, good pasture. So it gets really, really detailed on what a person can qualify for, which in the past has been people will come to town hall and ask, well, can I have a horse or can I do this? And it's like, clearly no, according to the way the regulations are written. And then when you look at some of the folks in town who have larger pieces of property who have specifically cattle that they've gone thinking about, you would drive by their properties and be like, yeah, this is no problem. They've got 9 or 15 cows on this, it's nice and fenced in. And technically by the regulations, they're not in compliance because of the matrix that we put forth. So it's things like that and setbacks, like we have pretty excessive setbacks on anything where there might be manure stored, where it's setbacks to a property line instead of a dwelling.
that's a problem.
Yeah, things like that. So it really limits people on what they can do.
You just have to be careful because the other side of the coin is there are people who abuse the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I had an next door neighbor who had 15 horses on a half an acre.
Mm.
And it would took it 2 years to get them to get the horses off.
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful with door you open.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the kind of take that approach with everything.
There's a problem on both sides. There's people who abuse it, there's people who should be able to do stuff and can't.
Yeah, for sure. So, but I mean, that's just one example, but there's nothing specifically like fixed related that is top of mind. So we're still moving forward as best we can.
Thank you. Okay, Pine Street parking,
You did talk to the guy who's there like.
Really?
That's not true.
When I wanted that.
What is that?
And Melissa, and both, had both of them for probably 10 or 15 minutes each.
They gave you an air cool or what?
I was
I
Melissa.
had one very pleasant conversation with Melissa, and one not so pleasant conversation with, and, right?
Is he still resisting? Excuse me.
Oh, big time.
He thinks he's going to court. I don't know. I don't know if he's checked his bank account lately, but
Yeah, he said they're ready to report. They both say they have deeds and surveys showing they own in the road. Right? Say they both have, you know. These surveys,
So they have surveys that say they own it, that's
Yeah,
it.
they do.
They do. We've seen that they do,
Well, I did it, that's why I know they do.
Yeah.
so this is the juice worth the squeeze conversation at that point, is that, I mean. legally
Well,
speaking.
it's not, it's like any other road, most all your country roads. I haven't done the research, but I live on Double Day Road, I might technically go and have a Double Day Road, as long as the town has the right of way, they can still use it. It's not like I can reclaim the roads, the problem with that road is. Did the town totally give up or not, or does the town still have the right to use it?
He cites the statute, I don't know, you can rattle it off, that he said, what's closed? Closed, I don't think that's a term, closed meaning, they may close a road, so they can't use it to the public, doesn't mean that they gave up rights to it, but. That's what he told me, I'm talking, you know, several times, I couldn't interject, it was just that he wanted to have it. And from my understanding is that there's a difference between discontinued and abandoned, the road not abandoned, they were discontinued.
Right.
And that's what he cites on statute, so it's wrong, that they were abandoned and that were.
So man, but they've gone back to. When and found that it's discontinued, I think Joan did the. I don't think discontinued is, I believe, the right word, what that means, I've heard different things now what that means. But I always thought discontinued means the town's not gonna use it right now, but they still have rights. But now that one of their attorneys come around and say, whoa, so I don't know, it's complicated.
Lista seems very, nice person, very reasonable to talk to, but he's deferring to him more so. And her own concern was the people wearing bright colored clothing, walking along a trail, like spooking the horses, and that was an area of concern she said that she had. But he's just about, you know, only even not letting, not even people.
His problem is his garage and stuff is on, not on his property, so. Some
People was trespassing.
house is trespassing.
I had a real nice chat with Melissa also. I actually reached out to her before the event and asked her to attend.
Okay.
And I asked her to join Friends of Monroe Pond and get other people that are interested in questioning and, you know, so that we can help them if they want to have equestrian trails in Monroe Pond.
That's good.
And I also talked to her about the right to farm site, and she said she wants one on the property. I'll get it there. The one thing in talking with her, I mentioned to her that there was a case with Wellswood Road, Zola Road being closed at the Hebron border back in 2010. And the court found in favor of the owner of that property, that Hebron couldn't block it because it was legally a road. And they had access. And then so that basically that's the same road she's doing. She said it winds through the woods.
Yeah.
And that.
The only difference is that when the guy he claims he didn't do it. He says the guy who bought up before actually basically obliterated everything in there, threw rocks and made a mess out of it,
It did,
so.
okay. So,
But they do,
No problem.
they have the map that shows everything, and I don't know, I left that in the hands of the powers here, I've been needing to talk to them, see if they're doing anything with it.
yeah,
I think you guys saw it the last meeting.
yeah,
So does somebody have to force the issue, and the town, probably the town, right? So we're gonna do this now, and
I think it's in the hands of the lawyers.
I think everybody would like to just agree on something and make it go away, without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight over it.
We talk about this and have a compromise, but I understand it, you know, I can wait in his mind. I directed him, I said, who would you like to talk to? You know, there are people representing PPP, like the public plan, who would you like to speak with? Why did he come? And he said, I'd like to talk to him. So Ken Bradley is one I'm taking the side on to, she had a conversation, I said, can't you go back there? And he, somebody else was there in the conversation with, that was Jamie, I think, this other woman that was there earlier, she left early. But she is responsible for the real estate, we have gave her a t-shirt last night, she came, you know. So, she said, there's no big road crow, right? And I said, okay, but she, he is the person I think directly indeed that deals with these types of issues, or kind of
Well, one.
one of them, okay. We found 1 out of 80, that's something.
You had 2 deep persons there. That's pretty good, if there's only 8. Okay,
But I didn't hear what came out of that conversation with King, I'd be curious what her perspective was.
I don't think anybody talked to Ken afterwards, 'cause he was rambling at her. I mean, I overheard some of the things he was saying, which is, you've heard, I heard, anybody that's talking has heard his spiel, so. I don't know what she said though.
I didn't talk to him, but I've been talking with Melissa, I said, one of the things I brought up, I said that the original park was purchased 30 years ago, and at that point, the state really believed that they had a right to get to their property corner from Pine Street, so if the state wants to jump in and also fight on the same side as the town, say, hey, we plan to use this.
That's why I've always said, let's agree on something very minimal that can, at least so someone could park there and walk back there. I mean, no one's gonna, people just wanna walk across and get into the woods. They don't wanna spend any time on their property. And there's things you could do to mitigate any impact on them. It's just a path,
no,
but we'll see. I guess to answer your question, not much has happened on my street.
Ooh, only it's
no,
spoiling, though.
stuck in.
But it's with Tom and had Tom Tyler talk to Melissa, so that's great. That might be an opening. Cause if she's open-minded about it. She's just hearing from me. I mean, you
No, I-
talked to him, I'm sure he said the same thing to her, and she doesn't want to upset her next door neighbor.
And I mentioned to her, because before, Inlet came on site, they asked for some feedback to what, you know, different things, we gave them some ideas of where we thought access points should be, all that kind of stuff, and one of the things we said that parking lot, if it ever happens, would be primarily pedestrian and equestrian, that we didn't want to see a large parking lot with bicycles coming in and out. So, because we wanted to respect her business. And I shared that with Melissa, if this happens, we understand, you know, that it could be a threat to your business with all this stuff going in and out, if it became a real service road or something, you know?
Okay, we have heard about 12 Town. Carol, anything on road?
Well, a little bit more on airline, so they're gonna have a big meeting next week, September 24th. Where all the 12 towns, we're gonna go to Wyndham Town Hall again.
Yeah.
So that'll be
North and south.
correct to talk more about this.
Yeah, go for all the, like you and the whoever are the different, what would you call it, the people, key people involved.
Yeah, but I mean, they're inviting everyone. So, and then last time it was like 100 people there, over interest, town employees, volunteers, all that stuff.
So anybody could go.
Yeah. we'll- Okay,
Oh, Hot River, you were,
yeah,
so. Last year we did the Ride East event where it came to Mama Pond. There's already a plan in place for May 17th, 2025 to do the Ride East
That was this year,
I-
last year.
next year.
You said last year we did the thing.
We did it to Mama Pond, so every year they're gonna do a Ride the East event. So the new Ride the East event is gonna be May 17th, 2025.
And she said the one we did last year.
The one we did earlier this year.
Surely it's not confused, actually. I was gonna say, Rick, you said that. Did I miss that?
It's like a few years ago. How about that?
Who's doing this, Ryan?
East Coast Greenway is the one that's,
Greenway.
so it's East Coast Greenway, Ride the East event. It'll be May 17th, 2025. It's gonna start again in Willimantic and go up the Hop River Trail toward Manchester. There'll be different links and stuff. And by then, the bridge will be fixed on Hop River Road. And we're gonna work at, in theory, the bridge will be fixed on Hop River Road. and there's a Boy Scout in town that's working on a kiosk for that Hop River Road. And potentially, one of the stops will be the Hop River Preserve historic site for people to see what it is.
Did Joan know?
I talked to her a little bit about it the past couple of days, and she said, yes, we could be ready with something by May, and that's not
Mm.
out of the question. And I said, it doesn't have to be permanent, so it could be temporary. So,
Okay. Hop River Mills Preserve. Joan is still digging away, right?
Yep.
And, so, and as far as I know, we have not received the designation as a state historic preservation site. Yeah, the paperwork got lost on somebody's desk. That was one person for the whole state. Not-
We're lucky at 80.
Things get buried. But we're still very confident that we'll.
Make sure you get that
And-
most on desk. Make sure you get that most on desk. Currently, the paper. All the applications. What's the significance of that? If they do get designated, that what's the upside? I don't know anything about it.
Okay, that opens you up to receive grants. And we're hoping that when we get it, open up the opportunity to get a grant for signage first. And it also helps to conserve the site in that it's designated. So that,
It wouldn't include any like. I know that as soon as the foundation is buried there, they would be looking at exposing them or.
no, it would be, the plan is, the plan is for Joan to locate enough of the archaeological evidence to validate the maps that she has, the historic maps, that yes, this actually was here and part of it still is. And then the I'm assuming she would fill that in and again, and then it would become an interpretive walk. So the signage would tell you the whole history as you walk around the place.
so recently, all the properties that have bought it, all those lots were sold, so there's somebody new that owns all those building lots.
No, really.
Has anything come back to PCC?
You mean the lots that were part of the original subdivision?
Right,
Yeah, I don't think it would come back to us at that point, because we did the original subdivision.
Because it's zoning department.
okay. In the burger.
The last meeting was a very short one. The only thing that I noted was, the salmon, the Black Ledge and Jeremy have been approved for, continued consideration until Wild and Scenic River.
Yep.
And nobody seems to know exactly what that means for towns on it. So there's gonna be a Q&A session with the National Park Service to talk about this coming up. Pat Young has scheduled this, or will schedule the details. Obviously, and Mark is well aware, he gets copied in stuff, and
I see some art, what's happening.
So, they're going to, like a public hearing or information.
This won't be, this is for stakeholders and towns to be appraised of what they're expected to do, what this means for them.
Okay.
And of
Because,
course, we're not considered a court town, so
no, but we are one.
we're mayors, yeah.
Would you like to,
No.
question?
I'm just seeing how much it costs to make.
You didn't attend our very important, yeah,
I would if I was in town. I was, on a flight there. So.
It's good.
How'd it go?
Very nice, very nice.
Everybody's happy with the trails and everything they're saying we're probably gonna be able to do, and
A lot of positive stuff.
you guys, we have air conditioning. Guys warm or what? Windows open, nothing?
You might save money to buy open space.
You can open it, but you can open them. Warm it there. So, any questions for me and stuff? No,
Are you gonna be around for one?
today? I have to go to an emergency dentist. I was on a cruise and 3 days ago I came down with a toothache that, thank God, grew
Something. I'd like to talk to you about Pine Street.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a couple ideas that I'm on board like.
Just get Department of Public Works, line every truck up on there, and I'm sure they'll agree to whatever is on it. So, we'll talk. Not today, later today,
Whatever, it's not.
yeah, and talk about Saturday. I don't know if I'll be there tonight, I think they're gonna pull this tooth out. Yeah, very good. Believe me, there's a point there where you see Tom Hanks in the movie Castaway, where he takes what do you have, an old gate or something, and slams it, I was ready to do that. All right, very well.
Thank you for stopping in.
Values his money.
You know, this out. He never comes in and sits down, he just cracks the door. Okay. So, you'll keep us appraised of when they hear it. Good. Okay. Where's it now?
So we had the event last night. How many new members did we get?
18.
Something like that.
Based on the glass of wine, it's 18.
Just, we had, the figures. Well, we have 10.
Yeah.
Right, so we had 10, I think it was.
Oh, close enough.
10, 18.
Yeah, over the course of the night, I'd say we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 people come through. Representatives from Andover, Hebron, Lebanon, Columbia. So it was, and one of the things we were trying to capture as people coming in is how did you hear about it? And some people had heard about it from a paper flyer, it was kind of in the Island Woods area, and others had picked it up from all these different Facebook things that I posted.
I did, few people I talked to, some who had joined were very anxious to at least get out there and see what they did. So I think we can talk about October having that thing. Yeah. I guess we'll talk about it. We have Prince Mountain meetings with Terry Mounts that basically got a walk for everybody to schedule a walk and just go somewhere to give people, introduce them to the people who haven't been, there are people who've never been in that out there.
Correct. And there was a lot of that last night, that people weren't aware that the property had been expanded, because they were like, we don't want mountain bikes around the pond. And I was like, no, I mean, so it was really good. IMBA and TPL allowed me to be a part of the presentation, so.
Well, you were nonstop.
I know, but it was really just, okay, this is what we're talking about now, you can talk with them, go and do the surveys, because you now have a baseline to know what you're looking at.
That's what I keep.
And we really did get good feedback from TPL and IMBA for how well organized we were and how nice it was, and it really was, parts don't allow us to be there. Otherwise, we would have been in this conference and that was all that was available for last minute, so it would have been. It was much better than.
We can have the crowd here.
No, and, but the minutes show that we always had gratitude to the table. Opening up their facility for us. It was very nice. Okay, I have no other business.
I have two things I'll share with you.
Okay,
October 3rd. Friends of Connecticut State Park, so that's the kind of the parent organization of all the other friends groups. Has their annual meeting, and that's gonna be at Black Rock State. Park. So that's gonna be an evening, 5 p.m. to something. And that's out somewhere near Torrington, I can't remember where it is, but anyway, I think I forwarded in that. And then the next day, October 4th, is the Trail Symposium at NCC, then that's an all-day event, 9 to 4.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Both of them, there's benefits to attend, I'm gonna try to attend both. It's a couple of weeks away.
okay. Anybody else?
I apologize, we had the open spit, that piece of property that the town bought, I meant to be there to help vote on it, and I didn't keep it lying on the clock, and when I realized it was too late to come, so I apologize for not being there to vote. I'm gonna pass, so I don't feel too bad. But that piece of property will be a great addition to the overall town plan. It kind of completes that.
Yes,
In particular, the other piece that we purchased now will have a good access to that property, which is unfortunately the access that was there, wasn't suitable. So we have, I don't know how many acres, I forget how many acres the Ellis piece was, but it's a good sized piece.
Yeah.
And we really didn't have a good access, so it'd be really good, so. And I was disappointed we didn't have a member here who voted against it, but everyone, when you're against something, you should speak up here and let us know, because you might have some good ideas.
what concerns me is the management of the property. Because the piece that we currently own, the former Ellis property, which we purchased with grant money, was not maintained in any way. So it's a lovely wildlife habitat, but it is just choked with invasive.
Yeah.
And there was talk of, well, we're gonna use the pond on the recently purchased, the one we voted on Tuesday night, using the pond for recreation, fishing or ice skating, whatever, bird watching. But can we get in there? That's the issue. That we also accepted a fee with a stone wall, a lovely stone wall. Who's gonna mow the field? And who's gonna clean up with an ivy bittersweet from the wall? So,
Well, we are in the process of creating a driveway in,
yes,
which we didn't have before.
yes.
Well, I'm curious because although they're using open space money for, it, is the deed gonna be worded as an open space parcel with limitations on it, or it's gonna be town property? The Ellis property. I'm not even sure it has all the restrictions of open space on it. I'm not sure.
None of the property has.
Right. So it is town property, it's not technically open space. So it's.
Well, yes, and we got to work on the deed language, and I warned the town administration that, if you use this money, it has to have deed restrictions on it, as required by law. And I was assured it would. But the piece a piece of town-owned property between these parcels and Joshua's trust. Never got the conservation language into the deed. And I have brought that up a number of times. And they said, well, we're gonna do that, yeah. So that there are loopholes in this. And there was no mention of how it would be stewed.
But if it's really just gonna be an extension of Rec Park, the conservation language has to be worded so that they can do things like build soccer fields or dog parks or,
It's not a,
just, you know. Because I mean, there's no point in having access to the Ellis property if you can't do anything there.
Exactly.
we're gonna do anything we want, Ellis, for Ellis was purchased with the brand money.
Yes, it was.
Can I just Rob's concern about my no vote?
Well, I didn't mention your name, but
No, well, I'm here. So first of all, that's, if I don't mind, if you don't mind, I just.
I actually, I don't wanna put you on the spot.
Well. First of all, one thing that I think is important is that there be diversity of opinion on any town council group committee, whether it's appointed or elected. Now, I did vote no, one of two. I went into I don't say a lot, you're right. But I observed this whole process. Went into it kind of agnostic. I will, either way for or against it, I wasn't emotionally attached to anything. As far as I wasn't gonna stand up and make a speech. If it passed, it passed. If it didn't. It's really more of an observation for me, because this is the first one that I've seen through the whole process, right? So I didn't really, and I know a lot of people, a lot of people say this is not totally truthful, but I'm truthful. I went into it like, maybe I'll just abstain, I wasn't sure. Joan Hill had some extremely important and valid considerations during what she said during that meeting, and that persuaded me to vote the way that I did. So I think you guys just had a small debate on some of the issues, right? So I think what's important is working through those. And I know you didn't mean anything by it, but everyone knew that I voted against it. So I
The point is, you're one person has a different point of view,
right,
and I want to be quiet.
yeah, but I didn't form
That'll
that
help,
point of view.
that'll help the group, if you have a different way of looking at open space and things, maybe that's why you're here, so you maybe keep us grounded and, oh, by the way, guys, that was a stupid idea, don't be afraid to talk about it.
Right, and I try to do that, and I have no problem doing that, but I didn't form my opinion on that literally until I was there. So I was trying to take everything in this totality, but the one thing beyond,
I wasn't even there, so I'm guilty too.
right, so, but one of the things that I really want to stress to everyone is I think that sometimes the public sees this group as purely an advocacy group, when we really need to like push back sometimes, and I was gonna joke and say the only reason I did was to make it more awkward for me to come into these meetings, but I think there's an important aspect of, okay, guys, like, why are we doing this? Like, Joan really summarized it well. She's like, you have a limited budget. Like, there has to be a super, super high bar for the town to purchase property. Did we meet that bar? I mean, that was kind of her point. So like, when something comes up next, and we've spent $42,000 out of a $50,000 bank account, what does that leave us? Like, there's a practical side of it. It's not just somebody being against the concept of open space. And I feel sometimes that we kind of go to that level of like, well, you just call it open space. Well, no, there's things to consider, right? So I would rather have the dialogue on that. I just didn't have a lot of opinions on it. I mean, the property almost quarters of mine. I'm very familiar with everything around that. Like a lot of the, throughout the process, sometimes the reasoning on why we wanted it changed a little bit. One of the things that I would like to see, which again, I took this as a learning experience for me. So one of the things I will be more vocal about next time this occurs is like, let's do a really kind of in-depth, not restrictive, but in-depth analysis on why this is important. Like, what are the costs of this, both pro and con? Like, what is the future maintenance cost of owning 20 acres here? Like, Why do we wanna have it? If someone from the public comes up to any of us and asks, you're going to town meeting on this, why do you want us to own this? We should have an answer like that, and that answer changed over the course of looking at this. So that, it's not a criticism of anyone individually, but everyone should vote their conscience, everyone should have an opinion, even if it's different, and.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The only reason I voted for it was because I didn't think we'd ever get any use out of the Ellis property unless we had access for it. And for me, that was the necessity of having it, but we did not follow our own procedures on that. That the newer people on the committee have never even done one of the evaluation workups that we have used in the past to rate on a whole list of criteria why this is a good property or why it's not. And I did a presentation for Fight Pack 10 years ago, when we first developed this rating mechanism. We looked at all the pros and negatives and rated them with numerically, so there was a quantitative score on how good the open space parcel was, whether or not.
Yeah.
And then we could then compare it to other parcels that we bought or looked at or rejected or sent, you know, it's a recommendation to take fee in lieu of, and we didn't do any of that on this one. And we should have, because that is the one thing we're supposed to do, is do an analysis to make a good recommendation and base it in something solid and organized and field tested, rather than just saying, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And you're right, and I think especially for the newer people who've never done one of these evaluations, you know, with this, you know, I think it's important to us to stick to the things we're supposed to be doing. And for this one, we didn't. Because it didn't kind of come through normal channels. Normally, the board of selectmen would say, here's a parcel, what do you think? You know, and we do it. And this one just kind of life of its own, it just kind of went through for other reasons.
And now I'll tell you the politics of this part. Mrs. Shutt called me because she went on the website, found the Chairman of Open Space, and she knew that Open Space had dealt with the Ellis property. So she came to me first. Okay, protocol is that I then refer that to the town administrator, the Board of Selectmen. So I did that, and I said, here's Larson. What do you want? Open space. Okay. Do you want us to evaluate it? School grant? And we didn't see it for a long time. They got in touch with Mrs. Scott. Finally, they went out on the property, and as an afterthought, I get a phone call that says, we're going to talk to Mrs. Shutt today. Why don't you come along? So I came along. So I'm waiting. Finally comes back. And the Board of Selectmen had, well, not the whole board. There was no vote at that point. But somebody in the higher ups decided they had to have this. And it's because of the FUBAR with the sight lines on the Ellis property. And so, because of that fiasco, they wanted this one. And they just more or less told us that we want this.
Yeah, no, I kind of saw bits and pieces of that,
Yeah.
which is a quote, which I won't bring up now, that's a totally different conversation, which I've had concerns with that and other areas too. It's like, so who's supporting what and for what reasons, right? So it's not about like bad intentions or assigning bad intentions, it's just how does the process flow and how does it work? And the other aspect of that too is, again, me observing, that's why I was less than vocal on this one. That was good either way, but observing, it's like, you had 14 yes votes out of how many registered voters, right? So it's even more important to make sure that it's clear to everyone. It would be very easy easy for someone to get 13 people to come into that meeting, vote it down. Right, so it's a self-serving thing too, like if we want to see the stuff proceed, we have to be really smart about it and transparent, and I know that there's also stuff behind the scenes that first. But no, that's just my observation from it, I took it as a learning experience because I'm not as experienced as everyone else. So,
So. Chris, tell Justin how it went when. How about Ronnie Zeta's development,
I'm not sure I know what you're asking.
the town meeting? Tell them how that went,
At the town meeting or at the Fight Back presentation?
all of it.
Oh, well, my impression that I got back from them, they were grateful that we actually had a system set up to guide what we were doing, right? Okay. And actually,
The voters or the board of selectmen, who's grateful?
well, it was mostly from, I guess, from Fight Back, maybe, and it was prompted really with this thing, when we were trying to get them to look at purchasing all of Wellswood a plan. And we listed all the properties and what they were worth and what we were rating them and everything else. And we basically got, well, thank you very much. But, you know, we're not gonna put any money away for this, we're not gonna bond for this, you know, when a piece of parcel comes up, you know, we'll find a way to find money for it, but we're not gonna do anything for that, you know, and they just sort of shut us down on that. But I'm not sure that you know, I did get a sense of grateful that we had some thoughtfulness to what we were doing. But it didn't really compel them to sign on and really support open space the way other towns and around us do. You know, where they set up an annual contribution, or they had a fund to set up, or all that. None of that. They were not interested in doing anything of that. So
from that, the money is always iffy.
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but when we have taken properties that we put, you know, that we advocated for, that we wanted, for the town, we had the score sheet, which, when I oriented you and Paul, I gave you a copy of that. The score sheet, we had to encourage people to come to the town meeting. We have always packed Yeoman's Hall. We have always had easily 100 people, if not more, actually show up in person to the town meeting for a vote. You've seen budget,
Yeah, 20 people.
20 people, that's a big one. You know, I've been in annual town meetings for our budget with 10 people. You know, so to get 100 people at a town meeting to vote on something. And every time we've done that, you know, we do word of mouth, you know, the town sends out an orange card that everybody gets. We have never gotten less than 98% of the vote in favor of the purchase. And we've done that for Midbrook. We've done that for Ronnie Sanchez development rights, the Caston property, and what else? Anyway,
Yeah.
We have a really good tractor.
It's not Midbrook, the Ram parcel, was that?
Yes, the Ram parcel, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good.
I'd just like to say two things. One is the account that money was in. I wish Mark was here. And he could clarify what he said. But he actually said that the account that money came, that was not money that was just given to us out of the clear blue sky. That money was to purchase a piece of property. Off of Wells was owned by three brothers called Lucarelli property. And we had a deal, we had a price, everything. That money was appropriated by FIPAC and the town. And we were gonna buy this, and they backed out. So that left over $200,000 that had been appropriated, that was put in that account. Now, somehow or another, through what we've done, it is now whittled down to that $50,000.
Yeah, that's.
But what Mark said the other night was that there were three uses of that money. One was open space, but another was recreation. And then there was a third that I don't remember, and I wish he was here to say.
Agriculture.
Yeah.
Open space.
Okay, so, it didn't have to be solely an open space piece of property to use those funds. It could have had recreational use. The other thing, Ann, I would like to say, is I admired Joan Hill a lot. She is a brilliant person and just, the work that she can get done is amazing. But Joan Hill was on this committee for many years. And Joan Hill had the capacity to tell you everything that was wrong with something.
I've seen it before, and she's been playing with zoning meetings.
Absolutely everything. And that was one of the reasons we didn't go anywhere. We just seemed to spin our wheels and not go anywhere until I brought the trust with public land to us.
She's my favorite devil's advocate.
Yeah, she's definitely devil's advocate. I didn't agree with everything that she said. Some of the stuff she wasn't correct on, but she made a compelling point.
Another thing about that parcel, they probably could have sold it for a house lot.
True. Absolutely.
And they would have got more than 42,000.
Yeah, absolutely. With,
So-
as their right to do.
And it was, I think it was bigger than they made an effort to sell that to the town. So they
Yeah.
wanted to be preserved.
Yeah.
So I think that got into a little bit of the politics too.
It did.
I was only involved a little bit because I did the survey. So.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
in the long run, it'll be a good thing for the town,
And here's,
but please talk.
No, and I want, I will, and I do, I want to give you an explanation on why I wasn't vocal. Because I haven't gone through this.
I put brought up, I wanted to,
Well,
because I want you to be like,
fair enough.
I don't want him to be he's that asshole that, didn't approve it. But you're not, you have an important opinion, and if you're gonna be the contrarian and also be willing to say, we need more opinions.
Fair enough. I agree with that. We can, that's on that positive.
Yeah.
Thank you. And if there's anything that you guys feel that I should know, or, I'm an open book, I'm not always gonna agree with you, but we can have those discussions.
We're all individuals, we're all different.
it was one other time. It was the Ainsworth purchase. Was under permanent fiances and administration. And I was taken aside and told that we were going to purchase this. And we were gonna use land acquisition money to do. And it was because they wanted the sand deposits.
Here's what the gravel.
They wanted the sand gravel on this property. And they did utilize the open space money that time. As this one was political and he used the open space money. And that is the problem of the Board of Selectmen. Because we in open space must always remember, we are not a commission. We are an advisory committee, and they take our advice, or they reject our advice. And we is in of the board. And so if you cooperate with, you know, if there's give and take here. Because the smartest thing to do 10 years ago, 20 years, would have been to put a wee bit aside in the budget for open space, earning interest, so that we had money to negotiate when we got a very desirable piece of land come up. And that never happened. So they always said, if you've got a piece of land that you really need, we'll take it out of the general fund. And so far they have. But if, you know, you have to, play nicely without which.
If you did that, would that then eliminate the dialogue with the open space as a committee to decide on whether to buy the property and not have the dialogue with townspeople that like John will come in and provide input? If there was a pool of money available for open space to spend?
No, it would not be our money. It belongs to the town. It goes into a dedicated open space account, or there's another one for land acquisition, not necessarily dedicated open space.
Would there be a town vote then to acquire the property from an allocated fund or not?
There's still.
There's always a town vote in the charter. In the charter, anytime the town sells, purchases, or puts an easement on land, any amount, any kind, it must go to town meeting.
I think, what I'm wondering about the two accounts is that the open space account is the account where we take the fee in lieu of money on the subdivision. And it goes into the open space account, it can only be spent on open space. Whereas the land acquisition fund is a general fund that can be used for purchasing anything. So one of the questions I had last night was that $40,000, was that out of the open space account?
Yes, it was.
Then the money in that account is commingled with, some of it is fee in lieu. And some of it is money that the town puts in, but the money that goes in is fee and lose should only be spent on open space.
Yes.
And
I spent several days at the town hall ascertaining which account and garnering assurance that this has to have some kind of conservation language attached to it because of the funding that they use to purchase. And everyone understood.
One example, I might be wrong, but Pine Street property, Bill talked about they want to do someday, that was given to us, I think we still had to go to a vote to accept it. So
Yes.
there's no money involved, even
That's
someone giving you property
Yeah,
has to go through the same process.
purchase, gift, anything.
In two things.
Okay,
All right, wrapping up.
Okay,
Be quick.
back in June, the Hopper Trail, there was a woman pedestrian killed walking the Hopper Trails across the road. And the chair of Warren Avenue in Vernon.
Right around here.
No, so anyway, the chair of the Hopper Trail Alliance John Bolduc, said, hey, we need to do a study of all the road crossings and how safe they are, how can we improve them, all this kind of stuff. So he and I went out and we went across, and measured every road crossing, which I think there was 13 between Willimantic and Manchester. And then rated them on how wide the road, what's the speed of the road, what's the volume of traffic, is there a gate or is there bollards, all these different, you know, what kind of signage is there to warn cars about things, and size of the parking lot, if there's too many cars in the parking lot, then that takes away the sight line, and it was pretty in-depth, so that was just brought to the board in the past week or two, what we had done. So a part of working with him on that, it brought me back to Model Pond and access points, and emergency access. So I met with Jerry James, as the emergency preparedness. And I met with Scott Haddad, the fire chief, and I said, hey, if this thing goes with Model Pond, in the next couple of years, could be bicycle accidents out there, there's a cell service. How do we get the other towns, who's gonna respond to it? So he said he would take the lead on that, so the fire chief is gonna be the lead on what they will desire in the master plan, so that Hebron, Lebanon, and Columbia can respond. And then the other part of that was looking at the different roads and having measured roads and stuff for the Hop River. I went out and measured roads like Hunt Road, Wells Woods, Pine Street, measured distances and things and how safe. So in talking to both Jerry and Scott, they all agreed that moving the signage on Route 66 to Pine Street and directing people to the boat launch via Pine Street made a lot more sense than sending them down Hunt Road, because it was a shorter distance, wider road, blah, blah, blah. So that I brought down to the town administrator, and Mark said he would work with DOT on getting that signage moved. So if we get the signage on 66 at Pine Street for Model Pond, we can also add information, say, and the airline trail, and direct them down to Leonard Bridge, Cheddar, whatever. All good.
You see all the work he puts in.
Don't tell me I have to.
Any other business? And we are adjourned at 10:15.